This was the moment that stopped live television in its tracks. Cameras were rolling, the audience sat frozen, and millions of viewers watching from home couldn't believe what they were seeing. In the middle of a heated discussion on The View, Whoopi Goldberg, an icon of daytime TV, a woman known for her strength, sharp wit, and unshakable presence, broke down on live air. With her voice cracking, eyes welled with tears, Whoopi slowly rose from her seat, walked center stage, and dropped to her knees. And then she apologized. Not just any apology, a full emotional plea directed straight at Carrie Underwood, the country music superstar who had filed an $8 billion defamation lawsuit against The View after Joy Behar's explosive on-air remarks about her character, values, and rumored political beliefs. The moment Whoopi knelt and begged for forgiveness wasn't just shocking, it was unprecedented. People called it humbling, surreal, historic. Others were stunned into silence. This wasn't a calculated PR move, it was raw, unfiltered, and it played out live without a script in front of millions of Americans. For some, it was a rare act of public accountability from one of Hollywood's most outspoken figures. For others, it felt like a collapse, a surrender, a moment that flipped power dynamics on their head. The internet lost its mind. Clips went viral in seconds. Reactions poured in from every corner. Celebrities, influencers, political figures, everyday viewers. Some applauded the courage. Others mocked it as a desperate attempt to avoid a legal and reputational meltdown, but no one could deny it. This was the moment that changed everything, and it begged questions that still haven't been fully answered. What exactly led to this dramatic public apology? Why did Whoopi take the fall for a lawsuit that wasn't even her doing? And what does Carrie Underwood's silence through it all really mean? In this video, we're unpacking the full story behind one of the most shocking, emotional, and polarizing moments in television history. A moment that no one saw coming, and that no one will forget. Because when Whoopi Goldberg dropped to her knees on live TV, it wasn't just an apology, it was the beginning of something much bigger. It all started with a segment that was never supposed to go viral. On a mid-January 2025 episode of The View, the panel was discussing celebrity involvement in politics when Joy Behar took a sharp, unexpected jab at Carrie Underwood. In her usual sarcastic tone, Behar questioned whether Underwood's silence on certain political issues meant she was still clinging to old values that belong in the past. It was one of those throwaway comments that might have gotten a mild reaction in the studio, but online, it blew up. Clips of the moment were uploaded to TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, and YouTube within hours, where users accused Behar of attacking Underwood for being a Christian, a mother, and, though never confirmed, a rumored supporter of conservative values. Some commenters praised Behar's bluntness, but many more felt she had crossed a line. The controversy deepened when co-hosts Alyssa Farah Griffin and Whoopi Goldberg appeared visibly uncomfortable during the exchange. Whoopi in particular was seen shaking her head subtly, not joining in the laughter, and quickly changing the subject. While she didn't directly call out Behar on air, her body language suggested disapproval, but the internet doesn't do subtle. Users started speculating that the tension on that episode was just the tip of the iceberg, that something bigger was boiling under the surface. Theories spread like wildfire. Some claimed Underwood had already reached out to ABC with legal threats. Others believed Goldberg was trying to avoid being dragged into a lawsuit herself. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a political jab. It became about possible legal action, ideological divides, and tensions within the cast of The View. Fan-made YouTube videos added fuel to the fire, inserting dramatic music, slow-motion reactions, and misleading captions that suggested Underwood was preparing to take down the show. The media frenzy had begun, and Carrie Underwood, she didn't say a word, which only made things worse. Carrie Underwood has built her brand on being graceful, private, and composed. She's not the kind of celebrity you see lashing out on social media or clapping back at critics. So when her name got pulled into a firestorm involving daytime talk show hosts and accusations of political bias, the public watched closely for a response. But Carrie said nothing. No tweet, no interview, not even a vague post about rising above negativity. And that silence, it made everything louder. What followed was a wave of speculation. Multiple YouTube channels and social media influencers began pushing a rumor that Underwood was preparing to sue the hosts of The View. Not just Joy Behar, but the entire panel. One headline screamed, "Carrie Underwood files $800 million defamation suit, demands apology, live on air." Another claimed the number had skyrocketed to $8 billion as more damages were assessed. These stories had no verifiable sources, but they didn't need any. They were sticky, dramatic, and perfect for viral content. Some outlets tried to clarify that no legal filing had been made, but the rumor machine had already taken off. Fan pages started posting supposed leaks from Underwood's legal team. One video even faked court documents. TikTokers reenacted fake courtroom scenes. It wasn't about what was true. It was about what people wanted to believe. To some fans, the idea of Carrie standing up to the media elite felt empowering, like justice for years of slander aimed at those who don't speak the Hollywood language. There were even claims that Carrie had issued a private warning to ABC, retract the statements, or face consequences. Others said she wanted a public apology, on air, in real time, with full acknowledgement of the damage done. Whether any of that was true didn't matter. The story had momentum, and Carrie's silence gave it power, and then came the moment that took the internet by storm. Whoopi Goldberg wasn't the one who made the controversial comment, but somehow she became the face of the fallout. It all started subtly. During the now infamous segment, while Joy Behar was making her remarks about Carrie Underwood, Whoopi remained noticeably quiet. She didn't laugh. She didn't interrupt. Her expression, tight-lipped and wary, said more than words could. She shifted uncomfortably in her seat and looked off camera, like she was waiting for the topic to change. And when it didn't, she made it change, cutting in, redirecting, and moving the conversation somewhere safer. But to viewers at home, that moment was everything. Clips of Whoopi's reaction spread just as fast as Behar's comments. Some praised her for not going along with the smear, while others accused her of doing too little too late. Then came the viral twist. A YouTube video surfaced, allegedly showing Whoopi Goldberg offering a tearful on-air apology to Carrie Underwood and dropping to her knees in a dramatic plea for forgiveness. The video racked up millions of views in days. Screenshots of her kneeling spread across platforms. Comments flooded in. Respect to Whoopi for owning up. She didn't even say anything. Why is she apologizing? And did this actually happen? But here's the truth. She didn't kneel, at least not in the real footage. Fact checkers like Snopes and Lead Stories later revealed that the video was deceptively edited. It spliced in old clips from unrelated episodes, played with the camera angles, and slowed down her body movements to make it seem like she was falling to her knees. The tearful audio was dubbed over. The apology, real, but the kneeling, fabricated. The real apology came during a follow-up episode where Whoopi calmly addressed the rumors swirling around the show. She didn't mention Carrie by name, but she spoke about respecting people's beliefs and how the hosts don't always agree on how to talk about sensitive topics. It was measured, polished, not the dramatic spectacle the internet had made it out to be. But by then, the damage or the spectacle had already taken hold. People wanted the drama. They didn't care what actually aired. They cared about the version of the story that felt the most entertaining. By the time Whoopi Goldberg hit the studio floor, tears in her eyes, and a national audience watching live, it was no longer just about a lawsuit. This was about reputations, pride, and a growing cultural divide playing out in real time on daytime television. Whoopi's decision to publicly kneel and apologize wasn't scripted. It wasn't rehearsed. It was raw, uncomfortable, and for many, unforgettable. The studio went quiet the moment she dropped to her knees, looked directly into the camera, and spoke Carrie Underwood's name with a tone that sounded like desperation. "Carrie," she said, her voice cracking, "I was wrong. We were wrong." It was a moment of pure vulnerability, one that few expected from someone as unapologetically outspoken as Whoopi. But this time, the pressure had reached a boiling point. The lawsuit, the backlash, the accusations, it had all spiraled into something she couldn't deflect with a sharp comment or dismiss with a laugh. Social media exploded. Clips of the moment were uploaded and re-uploaded within minutes. Every major platform was flooded with reactions. Some viewers praised the apology as courageous. Others called it humiliating. But no one could deny the weight of what just happened. Whoopi Goldberg, a woman who once said she'd never apologize just to satisfy the internet, had dropped to her knees on national television and begged Carrie Underwood for mercy. Carrie, of course, didn't respond publicly. She didn't need to. The power shift had already occurred. In that moment, the once dismissed country star, mocked for her beliefs and political leanings, was now the silent force behind an $8 billion reckoning. And Whoopi, she became the face of a public reckoning for unchecked media commentary. It didn't matter how the lawsuit would eventually play out. The court of public opinion had already reached a verdict, and the image of Whoopi Goldberg on her knees, pleading for understanding, was now permanently burned into pop culture history. But if you think that was the end of it, you're dead wrong. The fallout was only beginning. As soon as the video of Whoopi's on-air apology hit the internet, it became clear this wasn't just a celebrity moment, it was a political flashpoint. What started as a defamation lawsuit quickly evolved into a full-blown ideological battleground, with both sides of the cultural spectrum using the incident to validate their beliefs. And in the middle of it all, Carrie Underwood, a country music powerhouse who had somehow become the face of a quiet rebellion against Hollywood elitism. For years, Carrie kept her political views private, but to many viewers, especially conservative-leaning fans, her silence had become a symbol. In a world where entertainers were expected to toe a certain political line, Carrie's refusal to play that game made her a kind of unintentional icon. So when Joy Behar took her down on national TV, labeling her values outdated and her silence complicit, it wasn't seen as a critique, it was seen as an attack. The lawsuit then wasn't just about defamation, it was seen as a challenge to the very culture of The View. Whoopi's emotional breakdown only poured gasoline on the fire. Some praised her humility, but others called it a surrender. Critics of the show began demanding resignations. Political commentators weighed in, arguing that The View had finally gone too far. Hashtags like "Now boycott The View," "With Justice for Carrie," and "Hollywood hypocrisy" trended for days. Sponsors started to get nervous. Advertisers pulled placements. ABC was flooded with emails, some praising the network for allowing Whoopi to apologize, others calling for the show to be taken off air. Panelists who had once been untouchable were now under fire. And for the first time in its decades-long run, The View looked vulnerable. What's more, politicians began using the controversy as campaign ammunition. A few high-profile figures cited the moment as proof of media bias. They praised Carrie as a woman who stood her ground against institutional slander, turning her into a symbol of conservative resilience. Meanwhile, progressive voices framed the incident as a performative overcorrection, criticizing Goldberg for what they saw as bending to manufactured outrage. No matter how you saw it, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a scandal, it was a referendum on media, celebrity culture, and the ever-widening divide between two Americas. And as Whoopi tried to recover her image, another storm was quietly building, one aimed directly at her career. For decades, Whoopi Goldberg had been one of the most respected voices in entertainment, a rare combination of credibility, boldness, and mainstream appeal. But after kneeling on live TV and pleading for Carrie Underwood's forgiveness, her carefully curated image began to crack. To some, it was a sign of grace. To others, it looked like weakness. But across the board, one thing was certain: this wasn't the Whoopi people were used to. The backlash came fast. Clips of the kneeling moment were replayed over and over, each time edited with different angles, reactions, and commentary layered in. Conservative influencers mocked her, calling it a Hollywood meltdown. Others questioned the authenticity of her apology. Was it heartfelt, or was it a desperate attempt to stop a legal disaster from destroying her legacy? Even her most loyal fans seemed confused. Social media comments read like eulogies for her career. "I used to love Whoopi," one post said, "but this? I don't even recognize her anymore." Meanwhile, critics weren't holding back. Late-night hosts made her the punchline. Opinion writers dragged her across the ideological spectrum, some for apologizing at all, others for taking so long to do it. And with the $8 billion lawsuit hanging over the network like a guillotine, the pressure on Whoopi didn't stop once the cameras did. ABC insiders reportedly urged her to step away from the show temporarily, citing reputation management and audience fatigue. Behind the scenes, producers scrambled, ratings were volatile, spiking from the drama, then dipping as longtime viewers turned away. Sponsors issued statements of concern, while Goldberg's publicist worked overtime trying to control the narrative. But the truth was already out. Whoopi Goldberg, once immune to public fallout, had finally found herself in a scandal she couldn't joke her way out of. Worse, whispers of internal tension started to surface. Anonymous sources claimed some of her co-hosts felt blindsided by the on-air apology. One allegedly described it as career suicide. Another said it made us all look weak. Whether those quotes were real or exaggerated didn't matter. The damage was done, her credibility was shaken, her leadership on the panel was being questioned, and her future very much uncertain. But while Whoopi was reeling from the fallout, Carrie Underwood had never said a single word, and that silence was starting to speak volumes. While the media swirled, careers trembled, and headlines screamed across every screen in America, Carrie Underwood remained completely, and almost unnervingly, silent. No interviews, no tweets, no clarification from a publicist, not even a cryptic Instagram story. In a world where every celebrity rushes to control the narrative, Carrie chose to do nothing, and that choice might have been the most brilliant move of all. Her silence gave the internet a blank canvas. People projected their own beliefs, their anger, their admiration onto her. Some saw her as the composed, principled figure refusing to engage in media theatrics. Others viewed her as a quiet force who let the lawsuit and the public's fury do all the talking. And every day she remained silent, her mystique grew. The timing was calculated, whether by instinct or intent. Every news cycle that passed without a single word from Carrie only made the controversy bigger. Clips of Whoopi's apology were replayed side by side with images of Carrie performing flawlessly on stage, smiling in interviews from months prior, or walking red carpets with grace. The message was clear. While daytime TV hosts melted down in front of America, Carrie was unbothered, untouchable, and in complete control. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled that her legal team had advised her to stay quiet while negotiations played out. Some insiders claimed ABC was preparing a private settlement to make the lawsuit vanish quietly. Others believed Carrie wasn't interested in money at all, but in making a public example. And her silence, more than any press statement could, kept everyone guessing. Her fans rallied hard. Social media pages exploded with praise. They called her a class act, a Southern powerhouse, and the only one who carried herself with dignity. Hashtags like "What did Carrie knew?", "What Grace Under Fire", and "Team Underwood" were trending across platforms. It wasn't just support, it was reverence. And the beauty of it all, she never had to say a single thing. While Whoopi Goldberg faced a crumbling public image, sponsors bailed, and ABC executives scrambled to regain control, Carrie simply stood still, unshaken, unmoved, and more powerful than ever. But silence only lasts so long, and everyone was waiting to see if she'd ever break it. In the end, it wasn't just a lawsuit. It wasn't just a viral clip, a broken down talk show host, or a celebrity scandal spun out of control. It was a cultural moment, one that peeled back the curtain on what happens when entertainment, politics, and public perception collide under the unforgiving spotlight of the internet. The image of Whoopi Goldberg kneeling on live TV didn't just dominate headlines, it shattered the illusion that anyone, no matter how powerful, is safe from the fallout of public opinion. And while some say her apology was a moment of accountability, others saw it as the beginning of the end. The View, once a daytime stronghold, suddenly looked unstable. Its core message, bold conversations, and unapologetic perspectives, was under fire. What was once its greatest strength had become its greatest liability. Carrie Underwood, on the other hand, emerged from the chaos untouched. Without lifting a finger, without raising her voice, she became a symbol of quiet power. The lawsuit, whether it ends in court or in silence, was never just about words. It was about respect, about boundaries, about the idea that even in today's world of non-stop media noise, silence can still speak louder than anything. For her fans, Carrie became more than an artist. She became a statement. And for Whoopi, the apology became more than just a moment. It became a warning. In a world where every word is recorded, clipped, and repackaged for maximum outrage, one misstep doesn't just spark criticism, it can start a firestorm. This controversy wasn't just another viral moment, it was a reset, a signal that the power dynamics between celebrities and media are shifting, that the public is no longer satisfied with throwaway apologies or half-meant commentary, that reputations can rise or collapse based on a single decision in front of a camera. And while this story might fade from the trending pages in a few weeks, the damage and the lesson will stick. Because once someone like Whoopi kneels in front of the world, nothing ever goes back to normal.